Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my experience as a student going out into the sonography world, my clinicals, externships, so on and so forth. Those of you who have seen my videos before, welcome back and thank you so much for sticking around. And those of you who are new, my name is Jamie. I was a maternal fetal medicine sonographer. I also had done vascular, general, abdomen, all of that, you name it, anything in the hospital, I've done it, except for obviously cardiac, because that was not within my realm, my spectrum of ultrasound. I did do fetal echo, so cardiac in that sense, but basically I've done all that. And now I am a business owner. I opened my own studio, 3D, 4D ultrasound. So we do mostly like 98% elective ultrasounds, those ones that you get the really cute pictures of your baby. That's what I do. I really enjoy it a lot. And I also do some diagnostics. So with that being said, when I say I do diagnostics, it's usually like when the midwives refer somebody to me for anatomy scans. That's basically it. So yeah, that's where life has been. But anyways, like I was saying, I had some comments, quite a few, asking me to kind of talk about my experience as a student in clinicals and externship. So that's what this video is gonna be about. I am cooking dinner right now because I just got home and I hope y'all don't mind, but let's go ahead and get into this video. Now, I feel like I got lucky on my externship because I got put at a hospital that was pretty close to home. It wasn't like super close, but it was pretty close. And then I also got put at the heart hospital here in town, so I got to do my vascular. And the vascular clinic, the heart hospital, was really close to my house, so that was really nice. And the vascular clinic, we had busy days, but some days were really slow, so I had plenty of time to study. So that was also really, really nice. Okay, so I don't know how much has changed. It's been years since I was a student. But when I got out, or when I was finishing school, they sent us to do our clinical rotation. And during our clinical rotation, they would pick different hospitals or clinical settings to send us to. And I would say like, when you're in your when you're getting close to your senior or your last last quarter of school, do like a short rotation where you get to go like one day here, another day here, and then another day here, right? To kind of give you an idea. And then in your then you'll do like 2 weeks where you're at some place for like a week. And then when you're getting ready to graduate, when you have to get all your competencies, they will put you in a hospital or some setting along that so that you can get all your hours. The school that I went to had us get 400 hours, I believe. And then we obviously had to do every exam and be checked off on that by whatever sonographer was training us. So like literally we had to do, let's see, we had to do a complete abdomen, a limited abdomen. We had to do a complete pelvic, a pelvic, testicular scan. We had to do a breast scan. We had to do procedures, all of that. So, and there was OB when you're in your clinicals. There was a little bit of OB, but it was very limited. I don't know of any schools, and maybe there are now, but at the time I didn't know any schools that strictly taught OB. There would be like in like one of your semesters or your quarters, there would be an OB part where you learned OB, so that way you could pass your board, but there was not a whole lot of hands-on experience. And so when it comes to OB, you definitely need experience because it's hard to wrap your head around. I mean, like, for real. So there wasn't like a whole lot of experience in that way. I hope nowadays, that they do offer more of an extensive OB class, because I mean, when you're on your clinicals, all you really do is like first trimester, or you know, like I said, your full pelvic, your pelvic exams, your limited pelvic exams. So you really don't get a whole lot of OB experience until you're out in the field, right? But yeah, so when you're out when you're first going to your clinical rotation as a student, you will typically get put with whoever their lead tech is there, and then they kind of show you how things are done. And then you get the opportunity to scan. I had a few girls in my cohort that were scared to scan. I will not lie, I was nervous because I think as a sonographer, our biggest fear is that we're gonna miss something, you know, because technically we're there to look for anything abnormal, and you don't want to miss it because that could be somebody's life, right? So I think we put so much emphasis on that so early that it's scary. And not only that, like if you have an ego issue, then obviously you don't want to scan because you don't want to look bad, right? So I mean, there's always that. But when you're on your clinical rotation, you want to scan as much as possible, because when it comes time for you to go on your externship, if they remember you and you like where they had you placed, they will ask for you. And then if they ask for you, more than likely you're gonna get a job there. So I mean, I would say definitely always want to scan, ask questions, take the initiative, even if you're only there for a day or two or a week. Always take that initiative because you want to look good, right? What else? So yeah, so now when you're done with your clinical rotations, you will go back to school, obviously, and then you will get picked for like your last quarter, your last part of your schooling, which is when you go out to your externship. A lot of places, when you go on your externship, and I don't know how all the schools are, but I know with my school, like I barely had time to do anything. I was lucky enough to have worked at a dental office who allowed me to like have really flexible hours. It definitely was not full-time pay, that's for sure, but I mean, it helped me get gas money, because when you're on your externship, you are not making any money. And if you think about 400 hours, if you're wanting to graduate in time, you're working like every day of the week, a full day without pay. So, I mean, it's a lot. That's what I say, like, is like really hard, especially if you're a mom or a parent or a dad, like you have young kids at home. That's the really hard part, because you're there a whole bunch. And I mean, like when you're in school, you're at school and doing lab hours as a ton, but it's just a lot. And then you obviously need a really good support system financially too, because if you don't, I mean, I could see where some people would get discouraged and want to drop out, because it's hard. Like, hard mentally, financially, all that. It's hard. But like I said, and I always tell people, it can be done. If it's something you want to do, definitely do it. In my opinion, it is completely worth it. I had someone reach out to me, and I can't remember what social media platform it was on, but they basically said that they were on they were about to graduate, and they're making it really hard for them to pass. So basically they were saying they had the hardest time scanning, and I'm going to tell you, you are going to have a hard time scanning. And if you don't scan as much as possible, you're going to have a hard time scanning, because the girls who were at school late at night studying and scanning, I'm not even joking when I say that, they were much better than I was. But I had kids, so I had to, like, I could only stay so long. And at the time, my marriage wasn't the best. So like my husband and I were separated for a little bit. So like the kids lived separately, we lived separately. So my husband would have to go to work, and I would have to get out in time. So, I mean, I would have to leave. So my scanning, unless I got there real early in the morning, which also was really limited because my kids had to be at school, so I took them to school. So it was like, unless I was there really early scanning, I could only stay a certain amount of time. Like usually if the kids could be there and they didn't have school, I would have them in the lab with me. And I know this sounds really bad, but they'd be in the lab with me up to like midnight. So, I mean, that was the hard part. Then you get into your externship and you're literally working with no pay, and it's a full-time job, and it's hard, but it's like, I really enjoyed it. So the hard part is the financial part, in my opinion. But it definitely can be done, and I always say that it can definitely be done. The hospital, not the heart hospital, but the regular hospital that I was at, my trainee, or my trainer, not my trainee, I was the trainee. My trainer, she was amazing. Like, she had the patience of a saint. She like explained everything so well, and like the fact that like I struggled with my scanning because of my lack of time in the lab. She made it easy for me to understand, and then if I had a hard time understanding, she knew exactly how to coach you without having to grab your hand or getting upset. So it was really, really nice, and I felt really lucky in that sense. Funny story, I have two funny stories from that hospital. I think I told y'all one when I passed out. That was one, and then the other one was I went and I had all my competencies and I was ready to graduate. I only needed one, and the one that I needed was a testicular scan, and I had no idea what I was going to do. Like, we didn't have any testicular torsions coming in. We had none of those that needed it done at the time. So I called my husband, and given our state of everything, it was a little awkward. So I called him and I asked him if he could come to the hospital and let me scan him so I could get checked off on my competency. So he did. So that was really awesome of him. However, right after he left, and I'm not joking one bit, I got 3 testicular scans that came in through the ER. No joke. So like, I just wonder like if they would have still came in that day, or if it kind of just gave me an idea of what I'm doing prior, because I'd never scanned a testicle or testicles before. So I mean, it definitely gave me some good quick practice, because that day I learned it real quick. Now, I do hear all these horror stories that these sonographers that have been doing it for a while are really kind of mean to the students or the new sonographers that just got out there. I personally never had that experience. I was always blessed to have really great preceptors. They were all really nice, and they had they were just patient. So I felt really blessed in that aspect. I feel sorry for anybody who had a really crappy time, like the one girl that I was just telling you about, that saying that they're just telling her she needs to drop out. With that being said, I would never drop out. Like, prove them wrong. Get out there and show them that you can do this, right? Prove them wrong, because yes, it's hard, but with enough practice, you can do anything. So I worked at one hospital, which I loved, and I worked on call. The only thing I didn't like about it is it was kind of far from my house. When I my first job out there, not doing transcranial Doppler, but this was like my first job with the hospital. It was kind of far from my house, and I'm talking, because it was downtown, like we got all the scans like 3 a.m. and I loved it, but I hated the fact that like I would come home, and then as soon as I'd crawl back in bed, I would have to be back out there. So like in my mind, I should have just stayed the night in the hospital in the ultrasound department, but I never did. I always drove, so I put a ton of miles on my car. But the money was really nice, and the experience was amazing. So I fell in love with ultrasound at that point. Now, when I got into another hospital, I was working multiple hospitals, and you'll hear nurses and sonographers that work multiple jobs. It's because the shifts and the PRN, they allow us to do that. So it wasn't until I started working at another hospital and that hospital that I really fell in love with ultrasound. I got to do pediatrics, not my cup of tea, although I like children, wasn't my cup of tea. I got to do encephalograms and scan baby heads. Those were my favorite. I loved going up to the NICU and scanning the babies. That was like, if I could do that all day, I would do that. If I could open up a studio just for that, so I could send images to the doctors for that, I would totally do it. Like, maybe not a studio, but maybe if like I was like contracted, I would totally do that. Like a 1099 employee, where basically I'm working for myself, but that was like my favorite, and that's when I really fell in love. with sonography. So it was just kind of like everything fell into place. And then like I got offered a full-time position, and I accidentally applied for the maternal fetal medicine position. And now let me tell you, they say at the hospital that I worked at, they said that the maternal fetal medicine were kind of like the mean girls. And I never saw it. However, I could understand why they think that, because as a maternal fetal medicine sonographer, we're kind of like a gang. We're like in our own little world. We get the better pay. And I don't say that to brag. It's just the way it is, because we have multiple registries that we need to be a maternal fetal medicine sonographer. So, and we were in the clinics. We kind of walked to lunch together. So everybody was like, they're the mean girls, right? But anyways, I accidentally applied for that position, and lo and behold, I got it. And it was the best thing that happened to me. So that's led me there. But I digress. I got off the whole clinical and externship conversation, and the whole point that I was trying to make with that is like, don't let anybody stop you, especially if your scanning is rough, because you will get it. It just takes practice. Like when I got to maternal fetal medicine, I thought for sure I had picked the wrong career field. I thought I screwed up, and then our training was 6 months, but about 3 months in, it like clicked, and it was like, my favorite thing ever. So I hope you guys like this video. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I probably did, because that's my MO. But I'm going to finish cooking dinner. And again, like I said, I hope you guys like this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe, and tell me what videos you want to see. Ask me questions. I think the next one that I'm going to do is about ergonomics and how, like, the injuries that you can get in sonography. So hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to making another video.